What's up, YouTube? Southern Comic Geek coming to you with a CBCS unboxing. Yes, this is my first CBCS boxing. This is the first time that I've used CBCS for grading services. I've used PGX and I've used CGC. Those are the other two big ones. Everybody has raved about CBCS, their new slabs, their grading services, how particular they are, so on and so forth, yada, 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 yada. So this is the first time that I get to experience that. And I'll tell you what I think, based on my experience, how they did, right? So sometimes first impressions are lasting ones. So we'll see if it's a good one or not. But before I get into that, go ahead and smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button. If you haven't already, I'll forgive you if you haven't, but go ahead. Rectify that by hitting that subscribe button. It helps the channel and helps the YouTube algorithm. So whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching on the rewind, it doesn't matter to me. I still appreciate you. So let's get into this. So first book that we had is one that everybody's seen plenty of, and that is the banana cover. Of three of these bad boys, I've paid varying amounts from them, gotten from three different people. And so two of them are in this stack. The other one had a slight bend when it got shipped to me, but shout outs and kudos to the guy that sold it to me because he helped me out with paying to help have that pressed. And so I'm crossing my fingers to see if it comes back. And so I haven't got some of the ones I had pressed back. So it's kind of weird, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But this is the first one that I got back. So this is a pretty popular cover. There was only 3,000 of them. It's, to me, not the prettiest one of all the ones. Hey, it's funny that you're watching because I'm going to be revealing and giving you a shout out in just a moment because some of these books I bought from you. So funny you should be watching. Joe M, thanks for your comment. Thanks for watching. And so this particular book is kind of hot. It seems to have kind of cooled off a little bit. Hopefully it'll pick back up because I'm probably going to end up selling one of my copies of this. But this one came back out of, drum roll, 9.8. Booyah. So I was hoping this was a 9.8. If you're familiar with Wolverine 1 or familiar with thicker books in general, what's going on, Thorough? How is it going? I got surprised on some and disappointed on others. Yes, I believe it is still hot. Cool. So 9.8 on this one, but the Wolverine ones are a thicker book. And a lot of times with those thicker books, they split up there at the top. And so the question is whether or not that is a defect or whether or not it's a printing deal and a binding deal and therefore don't count against you on your grades. According to CBCS, this one was good despite that and got the all coveted 9.8. So here is the second one that's in this stack. Again, I got one more that is still at CBCS getting pressed. Now they're saying it's going to be 8 months. I thought they were better than CGC. Hopefully they don't rip the cover off my comic book and never bother to answer your customer service complaints about it like CGC did. But this one, 9.8. So yes, this one too came back with the all coveted 9.8. So this is 1743 and 2630 of the 3,000. So that is where it's at. And so then I've got this one right here. So this was a book that I bought from Big Will, if you're familiar with Big Will out of Alabama. And I knew it did not have the inside cover inside cover. Listen to me. Inside poster, the pinup that a lot of times gets pulled out of these books. I knew it did not have that. Yeah, ouch, 8 months for sure. I'm hoping that is an overstatement, maybe under promising, over delivering. But the problem is that I got some of the books that were supposed to have been pressed. So then I'm like, well, did you press them at all? Or how did these get pressed and end with these, the ones that I did not get pressed by CBCS and get here at the same time as them, but the other ones didn't. So The reason why is because there's no competition, Joe M. Who are you going to send it to? CGC? You're going to send it to PGX? Nobody wants to do that. So the more competition, the more these companies have to up their game, up their customer service game. So aside from the pinup being out of this book, I guess this book to be like a 3.0. So I was very disappointed when I saw this grade of 0.5. So yeah, I mean, it was a nice book. It presents well. The red still relatively pop on this thing. I did not anticipate. This is what it was. So the centerfold is missing. So my understanding, and anybody in the chat, feel free to chime in, but my understanding is that with the pinup missing, they would still grade it. But come to find out, the last page is missing, which affects the story, which makes it incomplete, and a 0.5. So alas, very sad. Now, based on what I paid for it, in all honesty, I'm still okay with the grade. I just was hoping for at least a 3. I probably will end up upgrading that book. We'll see how it goes. Flash by Night says CBCS 8 months behind on pressing and grading. I've got one being pressed, but that it doesn't sound so great. So I was at the Huntsville Comic Con. That's where I submitted these. And this was the first time I was using CBCS. To be honest with you, it was the only option that we had available to us. And so I was like, well, I've never tried you before, heard good things. Let's see how it goes. The guy that was facilitating all this owns a comic shop in Florence, Alabama, and I ran into him in a comic shop in Mississippi like a month later at the Clayton Crane signing that I went to last month. And I said, man, I'm the guy that's calling you shop all the time because I don't have any information on these comics. I'm the guy that's wondering where my comics at least give me some updates on this. And he said, man, this is what they're telling me. And I said, that is absolutely crazy. So I don't know if, again, they're maybe under promising, planning to over deliver, because when I got the notification from FedEx, which this is part that I'm about to tell you is no reflection on CBCS. It's a reflection on FedEx. But when I got the notification from FedEx last week that I was supposed to get the package Friday, called FedEx Thursday just to verify that it would be here from Friday to verify it would be here from 7 to 11 o'clock Saturday morning. And it was out on the truck at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yet it did not arrive to my house till today. Surprisingly, I get to the door and it's not even my package. So then about 30 minutes later, the FedEx guy comes back and says, I gave you the wrong package. Here's your real package. And I'm just I was going to get all snarky with him, like, well, hey, what happened to you Saturday? I'm glad I didn't sit around the house all day waiting for you to come like your tracking said that you should have been here. I'm glad I didn't do that because you weren't here. But I was supposed to be on a conference call at that time, and so I was rushing back to get here into my office so I could be on that in time. And anyway, that's what happened there. So that's on FedEx, not CBCS. So again, I had some of these books were pressed and some were not. And so I'm not sure as to why I got some of them and not all of them. So what worries me now is because they included my original copies or their carbon copies of the order forms in the package. So it's like, well, wait a minute, what are you going to do when the other ones are sent? Or you have lost my books? I mean, what's going on? Yeah, they are, especially USPS, because it's the government. You would think that FedEx or UPS would have their better act together because they actually have to make money. They can't print it like the federal government can, but they're just overwhelmed by the enormous amount of increasing mail. William Smallwood, what's going on? Thanks for joining us. So here is the next one that we got on the list. So at the Huntsville Comic Con, the only guy that held out to the end, and I gave him kudos for it, was Chris Claremont, the legendary writer of books like these. Most importantly, the X-Men. The X-Men that if you're in your 40s, you grew up knowing Chris Claremont's X-Men, largely the things and events until Jonathan Hickman started with House of X, Powers of 10, was driven by Chris Claremont largely. Okay. All the characters you know and love, the way they think, the way they act, all that kind of stuff. It's largely driven by this man. And so I gave him kudos for it. And he said, well, you know, to be honest with you, you went too hard because all the cons being canceled, that's a large part of my income. So I needed the money. And so, well, I appreciate the honesty. Thought better about you, thought you were being all valiant and everything. And it's all about the money. But he was being honest. But yes, this right here is Iron Fist 14. Certainly the most sought after book in this Iron Fist set. I believe it goes to issue 15, where the X-Men star in it. And of course, you know, Chris Claremont is going to cross-pollinate all, you know, stuff as writers tend to do. So I got him to sign this book. I bought this book and the whole set of Iron Fist, bought them on eBay from a bookseller in Washington State, I believe. And so I bought all, like I said, 15 of them in varying degrees and shapes. Bought them for under $200 shipped. Okay. So when I got this one definitely needed some tender loving care. So I sent it to the Geek Aficionado to press and to show it some love and get it into shape before I brought it to Chris Claremont and then subsequently sent it to CBCS. And so you see that nice little first saber tooth action there, and we got a 6.5, which is exactly what I had guessed this to be. In talking with the Geek Aficionado, I said, in your humble opinion, obviously I'm not going to hold it against you. You're not a professional grader, I know that, but this is my opinion. What is your opinion? And he told me the exact same thing. So CBCS and we all were on the same mark. So that is always good to know when you can hit it on the mark like that. I would always rather undergrade, overgrade. It depends on the way you look at it. I would rather do that, and CBCS say, no, man, you're being too hard on yourself, too hard on your books. But in this case, we were right on the money, and so glad about that. So this says on the back, half-page ad for Godzilla #1. Okay, must be an early one there. And then full-page hostess ad featuring Spider-Man. Wow, okay. I guess that's important. Ruben Guzman, Cowabunga, dude. What's going on with you, man? So the next one that I've got right here is Moon Knight. First solo action in Marvel Spotlight #28. I bought this book off an off of a YouTube auction from the Geek Aficionado. And so he actually pressed this book for me before he sent it to me. Bought this one and the Night #1 from him at the same time together. And he sent this one to me. I had guessed this book to be around a 6.5, just like the Iron Fist was there. What's going on, Comic Mag Musings? Thanks for joining me today. And so guessed it as a 6.5. We'll see what it comes back at. Is a 7.0. I would have loved it if it was white pages. Unfortunately, it was off-white to white pages, but definitely glad that CBCS shined down upon me and said 7.0 because I was only looking for a 6.5. So glad to have this one in the PC, glad to have it at a 7.0. Obviously, it would be great if it was all white pages. Obviously, it would be better if it was a 9.8, you know. But hey, if some butts were fruits and nuts, we don't have a Merry Christmas. So what are you going to do? Flash by Night, what's going on, man? You saying the thumbs up to the Moon Knight? Appreciate it. All right, so then we've got a New Mutants 98. 98. I'm thinking about my way, New Mutants 98, which, by the way, more details to follow on that. But I got a New Mutants #1. How about that? Newsstand. Right, right. And so in November of last year, I was at GalaxyCon and I got Bob McLeod to sign this book. Right across Professor Xavier's head, like he's got a tattoo across his head or something. Anyway, so I took this book. I like double signed books when I can get them like this. And so I got Chris Claremont to sign it for me at the Huntsville Comic Con where I got these other ones signed. And so CBCS now will verify, not with the ugly pink label that they used to have, but will verify with a yellow label. And so it shows on the label that the signature for Bob McLeod is verified, but the signature from Chris Claremont was witnessed. Now, to some people, it doesn't really even matter, but that's how CBCS says, hey, we're going to do the yellow label because nobody likes our pink label, and CGC's doing the yellow label, and they won't even do that. So we're going to just one-up them, and we're going to do the yellow label, and we're going to verify. That's how they delineate or differentiate, rather, as to whether or not they saw it. They're just saying based on their computer-generated stuff that they use, that in all 90-something% accuracy, that more than likely this is indeed Bob McLeod's signature, but we in fact saw this one ourselves back in July. So July the 18th. So that tells you that I submitted this on July the 18th at the con. It is now September the 21st, 2 months later. Come on, CBCS, you're better than that. Even when I was submitting books to CGC and con seasons were in full swing, I was getting my books back inside of a month or 4 weeks, whatever. So 2 months is a little excessive, especially with no cons going on. Are they that bombarded by extra business? But even though the cons are not there, are more people saying, hey, look, we're not going to the con, so let's go ahead and get our books graded. Let's go ahead and do the CGC signings. Oh, that's right. They're going to CBC, now CBCS. So you would think CBCS would have all this extra time, but it doesn't seem to be, because it's taken them 2 months for me to find out that this New Mutants #1 is indeed a 8.0. So this is kind of a letdown because I had guessed this to be an 8.5 to a 9.0. It is instead according to them, a 8.0, creamed off white pages. So anybody in the chat that's more knowledgeable about their grading standards than what I am, how much do they take off for creamed off white pages? So the pages are a little more yellowy than what they liked. So how much do they, as a percentage, take off for that? Or is that only effective in the higher grades, like the 9.8 of the world? So in other words, would my grading have been correct at an 8.5 to a 9 had the pages not been creamed off white? Instead, maybe if they would have been off white to white, would they have graded this higher, is my question. So anybody in the chat, or if you're watching this on the rewind, anybody, feel free to leave comment down below if you can tell me the answer to that. K Titus, how are you doing from the land of the rising sun? So this next book is X-Men #11. So when I was completing my Uncanny X-Men run, I had actually gotten this one as a package deal with another book. Really didn't pay anything for it. Okay, maybe so. I don't know. I would guess that a 9.8, that they wouldn't give somebody a 9.8 if they had yellow pages or off-white pages. So maybe it's just a higher grade. So I'm just wondering if that is what made that go down. So I had gotten a coverless copy of this and had bought a facsimile reproduction cover to put on this, but decided not to send that one off. I waited and bought another copy from the Golden Age Guru, who was having a auction with Elite Comics on Instagram, and he was selling this particular comic book. So I decided to get this pressed at CBCS. So this is one of the books that for some reason was able to be pressed, or they chose not to press it and told me they pressed it. I don't know. But here's the crazy thing about this book. This is the first appearance of the Stranger, and it has an appearance of Magneto and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants as well. The Stranger, more known for cosmic stuff. I think he was one of the first wielders of the Infinity Stones that Thanos stole from, if I'm not mistaken. But I had graded this at a 4.5, and that was actually what Jeff, the Golden Age Guru, said his was at, and this came back a 5.5 white pages. So for a book from 1965 to have white pages, wow. Now that means something to some people and it doesn't to others. You know, it is, I would rather have the higher grade than have the delineation of white pages. But in this case, I got the best of both worlds. I got both white pages and I got a higher grade. So pretty pumped about that. Glad to have that in the PC. And so I've got the first 11 of the X-Men comic collection. I think I got the first 11 because Kazar's first appearance is 10. And so this is 11. I don't have 12 slabbed. I got 13 slabbed. So I guess I'll need to send 12 off and get it slabbed so I can have in order there. What's going on, Gray Man? How are things across the pond? Across the pond. So it was definitely a mixed bag of tricks in this send off to CBCS. Then we've got the all famous second appearance of Gambit. That's right, I said second appearance of Gambit. Let's see what they say. Okay. CBCS kind of went out on us here and says first appearance of Gambit in continuity. Come on, man. At least you could have said first Gambit cover appearance, which is what some people make the delineation of. Yes, I know it to be true, but it seems like I've seen somewhere where CGC has actually started saying that this is indeed the second appearance of Gambit. I know that the X-Men Annual 14, which is the first appearance of Gambit, mind you, it is actually in this stack as well. I know that there's been some heat more on that book as people and collectors that like Gambit, like X-Men, have said, I think I'm going to pick up on that. And this, and be honest, is probably due to the fact that this book continues to rise up. Now, I have a 9.4 newsstand copy of this. This is the, but I bought that one already slabbed. So I had this one raw. I bought this one from Big Will. He actually had this book graded and he cracked it. Let's see, Thorough says page color does affect your grade only if the pages are tan to brittle. Page color usually mostly affects the value of your book because folks want white pages. I got you. Okay, well, appreciate the knowledge, the fact dropping there. So Big Will had cracked this. Don't really remember why he told me, and maybe he did, maybe he didn't, told me that reason why he cracked it. But when he sold it to me, he said, hey, look, this was a 9.4 when I cracked it. But maybe he was going to get it signed by Claremont, but decided to sell it to me instead. So I bought it from him several months before the con, and then the con got delayed, so it was even more months. Got this signed by Chris Claremont because it was raw. This is a direct copy of this, and it came back a 9.4 white pages. So no real big surprises there. This is what Big Will sold it to me as, and this is what it came back as. So glad that we didn't have no discretions there. Then I've got X-Men Annual number 14, the first appearance of Gambit. Let's see what first published appearance of Gambit. I never knew Gambit's middle name to be a teen. Etienne. Wow. X Factor crossover, Fantastic Four, New Mutants appearance. Okay. All right. So this was a book that I bought for $20 on eBay. I needed a copy of this particular book, and it was on the cheap on eBay. I said, let me go ahead and buy it. So it's $23 with shipping. Okay. Looked pretty good. So I elected, and it's a square bound book, so you can kind of tell. And so I elected not to have this one pressed. I'm saying I'm going to just take my chances on it. I've since bought a newsstand copy of this. I really wish I would have had that one at the time I got Chris Claremont to sign it. Not really sure why he signed it in gold across Ahab's chest, but needless to say, he does what he wants to do. And so this is what we came across as a 9.8. So definitely glad to pick up that 9.8 white pages for 23 bucks on eBay. So occasionally you can find some good deals on the eBay. I try to stay away from the eBay just simply because I like my comic collecting as it's evolved to be more organic in nature. So like if I'm on a auction on YouTube or on Instagram and it happens to come across, I just, hey, if it's to be, it's to be, and there it is. There's an occasional time that I'll go after a specific book because I can't find one around, but that's not near as fun. Gambit is related to Clemson running back? Wow. No, Gambit would have to be related to somebody in New Orleans, right? Maybe that guy's from New Orleans. Who knows? So wow, this is. I'm going to go ahead and tell you because I've already seen these books. This is definitely the letdown of the entire deal. And I've got, for those that are hanging on with me after this one, I've got two more books that I purchased from Matt Marlin, who happens to be in the chat. Well, one of them I bought from him. That is in the chat. And so pretty pumped about those in full disclosure. But this one, not so much. So I bought this one. And you might recognize it as the Wolverine Origins 10. First Dakin, I believe. Yes, and it is the Bone Claw variant. So there is another copy of this that doesn't have this third claw here. It just has the two. And so this one right here is the more sought after one. It's the rarer of the two. I bought this from We Can Be Heroes. And so, hey, no holds barred, good, bad, ugly. That's what I put in the description of the video. Good, bad, or ugly. This is what we're going to share with you. This is the ugly right here because we're going to find out, too, what caused this thing to be the grade it is because it was definitely nowhere near what I anticipated it to be. Even when I handed it to the guy, he's like, man, this is a beautiful book, awesome book. And, you know, it's in such great shape. But here we go, 9.0. Whoa. Whoa, people. I mean, this book, whew, I was banking on this book being a 9.4 to a 9.6 and crossing my fingers for the possibility of a 9.8. And this cunt picking thing came back as a 9.0. I feel like Dakinizing CBCS. Shink. Does Dakin go shink? I mean, I know his dad does, but I mean, is that inherited or is that the whole adamantium thing? I don't know. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to see about why CBCS tells me that this thing is a 9.0. So hopefully you can see my screen here. The one good thing about CBCS as opposed to CGC, you do not have to have pay extra money to have a your grader's notes. You can get those regardless of whether you were the submitter of the book or not, and that is a definitely big plus. And so if you're selling a book, it helps because you can just send it the little thing that is right under the number. And so this thing is saying the color rubs and surface wear and back cover. So let's pull this thing out of the Mylar here. Let's pull this baby out of the Mylar here. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that, Thorough. It's just that, you know, I don't see a gum color rub. There is ever so slight. You probably won't even be able to pick it up on the camera here, but right above the staple, There, I mean, maybe that's a color rub. I would have attributed it to, if you look at this background right here, see how it's all spotty and everything? I mean, that's part of the picture. So this thing that they're calling color rub, I would say is really from that picture, is part of the picture. Than it is color rub. Um, Man, I appreciate, yeah, because it is a rare book. Um, if I remember correctly, with what I paid for that particular book, hey, let me pull it up in CLZ because I keep up with all that. CLZ, let's see, Wolverine Origins. If what I paid for it makes sense. Ad on the back. Yeah, I mean, to me, that's what it looks like. Is it's part of the deal. It's kind of the way the picture looks, and uh, I guess if your job is to find error in something, um, then and you find uh, that said error, so you know, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I mean, and the very idea that, I mean, it would drop at 8.8 points is nuts. So at a 9.0, I'm still good with what I paid for the book because a 9.0 is still indeed listed as a very fine to near mint, which is what We Can Be Heroes, who sells on Instagram, sometimes in conjunction with Elite Comics. That's what they claimed it to be. So really maybe just optimism on my part, but I really feel like that is part of the ad and not the book, or at the very least, certainly not zero point 0.8 points off. So, um, anyway, what's going on, Perry Comics? Perry, did you get that one subscriber that put you over 10,000, or are you still hanging on to 9,999? All right. So here's the next book, and I believe that I bought this off of a YouTube auction. I'm trying to remember who I bought it from. If I'm not mistaken, if I bought it from somebody else, no offense, but when I put it in CLZ, I don't put it by the seller. I put it by the type, so YouTube auction as opposed to Instagram auction. So I believe that I bought this from Weapon X, who is or X Collect rather. Yeah, X Collect. I get it right in a minute. X Collect, who sells on different channels. Yeah, and I'm thinking, should I call CBCS? Because I'm going to have to call them anyway, because I want to know where my other books are at and get some kind of update on the books, the other 3 or 4 books that were pressed but are MIA. So who needs a sub? Well, I'm sure everybody here in the chat would appreciate a sub, and thanks for the offer. I said, this ain't a movie guy. This is a comic book guy. I mean, who could have thought it, based on your name, right? See, what's going on, man? You missed the newsstands? But yeah, I mean, should I call them and say, hey, man, you need to check your glasses. There was a smudge on your glasses and you assumed it was on my comic book. You get it right. I'm actually thinking about doing that. So bought this, I believe, from X Collect, and this is Star Wars 68, listed as the first appearance and cover of Finn Shisha, and there's a Dengar appearance. This is also listed on here, but this is also the origin of the Mandalorians. So this is the origin of the Mandalorians. I wanted, it was funny because I got this one. I really wanted a newsstand copy of this. And as soon as I bought this one, then you see everything else pop up and you go, well, I could have. And I just didn't really want to spend the extra change to get a newsstand at that time as well, but it still might do it. But so I had guessed this book to be I guess this book to be around an 8.5. So CBCS says 9.6. So definitely undergraded this puppy. They cleaned the smudge off their glasses on this one because it was a super clean book. I believe that I had sent this to the Geek Aficionado as well. And I believe he pressed it. So if he didn't, I'm giving him credit for it anyway. And the funny thing about it is, and I understand that they give a little more slack to older books. So the fact that we were just talking about smudges, and there's color rub right there and right there on this book, and yet it gets a 9.6, and then Wolverine Origins gets a 9.0. So who knew? Big Will, man, I shouted you out a while ago because a couple of the books that I bought from you were part of this haul today. But yes, Star Wars 68. So glad to have that in the PC. That book certainly heated up with the popularity of The Mandalorian, and then also the season 2 trailer dropping. It's definitely a hot book. So this last book, last but certainly not least, I purchased this book from Matt Marlin. I didn't really know that you were going to be in the chat, and I certainly didn't know that it was going to be the last book. It just kind of happened to fall that way. But do want to give him a shout out because he is on Instagram Wednesdays, but it seems like you've changed your day. But feel free to drop it in the chat, give you a little plug out there. But always slinging some good books over there. And we've got a lot of sellers. I know Thorough is always hosting. Seawood, I think you occasionally sling some books. Big Will does some auctions as well. And so got some good folks in the community to be buying some books from as opposed to Feebay. Matt Marlin, yes, Thursdays now, 7:30 Eastern time, MMN comic sales. That is right. The picture, the icon, the avatar, as it were, is the Infinity Gauntlet #1 cover. So I bought this book from him. He was selling this book, and he had graded it at an 8.0. And so at an 8.0, I bought it back in March. And so got the word back that this thing is a 9.2 copy, creamed off-white pages. So super pumped. He under-promised and over-delivered, and CBCS. No need to be worried about it. You know, I did put a little teaser out there before got that it did come back as a 9.2. So super pumped to have that. This is the first appearance of Boba Fett in comics. I believe this is the first appearance of Yoda and the Emperor in comics as well. Anybody in the chat, feel free to drop that information. But I am almost positive that it is. There was a magazine adaptation that was actually their technical first appearance. But yeah, so this one, did I press and clean it before sending it in? To be honest with you, I can't remember. I sent several books to the Geek Aficionado, including that Iron Fist 14. But I want to say no, because this book looked so clean before it got sent. And so if a book looks super clean, I mean, I'm looking at the spine here. There's nothing on the back, and looking at the front, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Where you had graded it toughly, you probably don't remember because this is way back from March, but there is a little kind of ding, if you will, right here in the corner. Corner's kind of dented there. A little bit, little teeny tiny bit, little of a fold up here. But yeah, and then there, it's not crisply sharp there, but nothing else. It is creamed off white, so you know the pellet pages are a little bit more yellow. Maybe you were thinking about that, but yeah. So I got this for $86 from him, And so sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes not everybody's going after the same book that you are. And it's funny because he was selling this book on the direct copy, similar to the other Star Wars copy that I got. And then lo and behold, here comes another one that had a newsstand. I was like, oh, okay. I'll probably just get one of both. I do like these Star Wars comics. I'm collecting the original Marvel run. And so liked Boba Fett, like most people my age, like Boba Fett for no apparent reason because he was very underutilized in the movies and largely looked like a clown. But if you follow the Dark Horse comics as well as what is now termed as legacy books, or legends rather, legend books, you know that he came out of the pit of the Sarlacc and continued to hound and then team up with Han Solo and all them later on with Shadows of the Empire, and then on into the other books where he's already old and he's got grandkids by that time. So yes. So really like that. So the only other thing, and so they put these back in my box as if, hey, we're through with this order, we're done. And I have never dealt with CBCS before, like I mentioned earlier, so I really don't know nothing about their customer service other than what I've heard people say, and that is that it's zip to minimal. Aside from the time that CGC tore my cover off my comic book and said, oh, well, you know, somebody handling it did that. Yeah, how about you? But, you know, aside from that, they will answer emails and calls. And so so there, I still have, so those are all there. The two that, so I pressed the Marvel spot. It shows that I pressed the Marvel Spotlight. And then it shows that I pressed the X-Men 11, and both of those are in there. I also submitted the Uncanny X-Men 21 from Volume 5. For those of you not familiar with that, that is the green negative negative cover, the Rogue one, which I like personally better than the Wolverine one, but that one was there. It had some little dents in the side there, non-color breaking, that I was hoping to get pressed out so that I could get that additional bump in value. So that one is still missing, and the Wolverine one, because which is the banana variant, I got two of them back. Those I didn't have pressed because I knew those were all good or should have been, and they were. This one that was pressed is missing. So now that worries me. Now, if I had gotten the order and it was just the signature books, which is what this is right here, the thing for the signature books. Okay. All right. Well, they're waiting for the rest of them to get over here. Or, you know, if I gotten all not those, then that would have still been understandable. But for them to break the order up like that, and anybody feel free to comment in the comments below if you're watching this on the rewind, or the live chat if you're watching this on the live. You know, feel free to comment, but you know, my experience with the other graders, PGX and CGC, has been that they're not going to ship until that's done because they're charging you for shipping. So they're not going to come around and charge me a second time for shipping more or the same amount, but at a different time, which means it's going to cost them more. So I don't really understand that. And I'm hoping that this is totally an error on their part. And I hope it's not something serious like they've lost my books and whatever, because the total number of comics, it shows total number of comics as 12 on this little list. Now, there were 12 books in here, but there were supposed to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So there's supposed to be 14. So I'm missing those two. We're still getting pressed. Just confirming that. So yeah, I mean, we'll see, and I'll let you know. For those of you who were sellers that I shouted out today in the YouTube, shout out. I'm not going to send you a bill for the advertisement, but I would appreciate that if you share the channel, because I do have a 600 subscriber giveaway, which is a New Mutants 98 first appearance of Deadpool, or Gideon if you like, and also a Deadpool pop, which shows the first appearance on the back there. So you get this and then the CGC 9.4 New Mutants 98. Now I bought that already slabbed. To be honest, I'm thinking you might could get a grade bump with a good presser, but that'd be up to you if you win it. So I have not released the details of how to enter to win, but there's two things that you can rest assured has got to be. One of them is you have to be over 18 or 18 or older. You also are going to have to be a subscriber to the channel. So you can't turn back time. If you were share, I guess you could. But you can't turn back time. And if you were, your time to 2020, right? All the stuff going on. But you can be the director of your destiny when it comes to subscribing to the channel. So if you have not already, be sure to subscribe up the channel. And if you don't mind sharing out the channel so that we can grow the channel to get closer to that 600 mark, because the sooner we get there, the sooner I can give that comic book away. I'm going to be upgrading my personal copy because for those of you who watch many of my videos, you know that I have the whole set of New Mutants Volume 1, which includes that right there. I also have an Amazing Heroes, is it 14 or 15, that I purchased from Keep It Thorough Comics, which is the first appearance of New Mutants, a little rarer of a book. And then also have the Marvel graphic novel, which most people term as their actual first appearance. I have that one signed, bought that one from Gamma Comics and Collectibles, a guy who has a lot of first appearances of the Red Hood. But so yeah, if you don't mind, I'm not going to send you a bill for shouting you out, but if you don't mind helping grow the channel, I would certainly appreciate it. Additionally, for those of you who had books that I can remember I, in fact, did buy from you, I will shout you out on my Instagram page as I post these, not all today, but over the next few days and weeks. As I post those, I will be shouting you out there as well. So any additional or fellow shout outs, I would certainly appreciate it. As of now, what you can do, if you haven't already, you can go ahead and hit that like button. Lightly tap it, smash it, whatever you want to do with it. But if you would hit it, I would appreciate that. And also subscribe to the channel, as mentioned earlier, so that when I drop the information of how to enter to win, you will have already got that part of it out of the way. Already out of the way. And if you like to see videos like this that are dropped ever so randomly so that you don't miss any of it, because YouTube is really bad about notifying people about stuff if you're not hitting that bell notification. So if you would go ahead and hit that bell notification so that you can make the decision yourself, not based on what YouTube wants, but on what you want, as to whether or not to utilize your time in your busy day to watch me do comic book hauls, mystery boxes, and the like, because that's what I generally do. So, but that's all I've got today, folks. Hopefully everybody, if you're talking about the Batman 181, I didn't throw no shade your way at all. You probably did say that, and I just glossed over it because I was thinking pinup. So, no harm, no foul. And then, of course, you were spot on the Uncanny X-Men 266, so no problem there whatsoever. We're gonna see. I missed the pin up and talk about the missing page. Yeah, I know. I see number of videos with cracks in the CGC slab cases and debris like styrofoam. Hey, when I had a hair in my PGX case, I called PGX up, called them up and said, hey, there's a hair in my case. This is not cool. And they're like, well, if you could kind of pry it open to the side, you might can get. I said, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. You're going to fix this. And so to their credit, they said, cool. And I said, so are you paying for shipping back are you paying for shipping back to you? Because this is on you. And they said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll go ahead and I'll do another book for you. So I sent them a book that needed press graded, signature verified. the most expensive, little add-ons that you could for them, for their my trouble, not their trouble, my trouble. But yeah, so I wasn't gonna, and I've heard that same thing. Deep dive. I think that they're trying to just do more with less, and their quality control has gone down as a result of that. And if CGC can get away with it, you can rest assured that CBCS is going to try to get away with it as well. The way to win in the marketplace, this is business 101, by the way. So this is not from the book of Jason, from the people, the chapter of ignorance, or whatever you want to say. This is straight business 101. If you want to rise above the competition, you don't have to tear the competition down. You have to be above the competition. And so CBCS did it when they upgraded their cases. I really like these new cases as opposed to the old ones. They're a lot firmer, like the CGC cases. Still not quite the quality, I think, of the CGC case, but I like that a lot better. Certainly like their cases better than the PGX cases, whereas PGX had the edge up on CBCS until they upgraded their cases. Then they added the yellow label, even if they didn't personally witness the deal, just signifying that it was verified, not personally witnessed, which I think is fair enough. So yeah, CBCS up their game there, but when it comes to customer service, they're still lacking in that department. So if you want to take on the number one guy, which CGC is, if you want to take on that, they also did the census. CGC has a census. You really can't tell whether or not there's a lot of overlap. People will crack slabs, press them, and send them over to the other company, and so there's like duplication there. But they upped their game when they added the deal, and then they've got the graders notes you don't got to pay for. So they've got some things, but that customer service. The problem with customer service is it's an ongoing cost that is never realized until you actually need it. But it seems like you need it all the time because people want to constantly communicate with people that speak English, by the way, not people in other countries that have no clue of what you're talking about. They can speak English, but understanding it is two separate things. And then you have somebody like myself who is hard of hearing. It makes it extremely difficult to deal with those types of people on customer service phone lines. Nothing personal against them. It's just reality of it. And so, I mean, up your customer service game and then start doing in-house signings like CGC got. And boom, you got them. I told PGX this. I said, look, this is the only couple of things that you need. Overall, you've done an okay job. You're pretty much on point with the grades compared to what I said. So it's not like we were off base there, like a lot of people will say that they are. And maybe they are. That's not been my experience with them. The cases were okay. When they made a mistake, they owned up to it and they fixed it. So these are all good points in customer service. The problem is that they're largely a one-man show, which slows things down, but they're still pacing themselves well. But they've got to get past their branding. I said, look, all you got to do is do these couple of things and you could rise above it. I was met with crickets. It's like, okay, well, appreciate you too. See you later. Bye. So I like CBCS. They're verifying SIGs. Not verifying with the gold label. And I understand what CGC is saying in the fact that they're like saying this is a gold standard. Pun intended, I guess. This is a gold standard, and so people should want to do this. Well, that's fine, but now people are looking at that going, well, gold is it's kind of like the iPad. People can say, hey, I got an iPad, but they really have an Android tablet because a tablet, as it were, is labeled an iPad because the iPad is the more popular of the tablets. And so they say, I have an iPad. Well, no, you don't. You got an Android tablet. It's an inferior product, but still, they call it that. And so we can do the same thing with the signature label. And I feel like CBCS found that balance of saying, hey, other buyer that is out there down the road, we saw this ourselves or we verified this ourselves. And as I showed you a while ago with the New Mutants 1, it says both. The Bob McLeod is verified. We didn't see it. but it's verified 99 point whatever percent accuracy. But we did see this one, and that gives the buyer comfort in saying, hey, this is a legit deal. And it looks a lot better than their old pink sig did for sure. Pink signature verified label did for sure. And CGC could do this. For whatever reason they don't. So CBCS has had a few signings lately. Yeah, they're trying to up their game there. If they can just customer service aspect, then that would definitely be an upgrade in their part. Well, as it tends to do, people drop some comments at the last minute when I was actually signing off, and we ended up taking this a little bit longer. But I do appreciate each and every one of you that caught this live, or if you catch this on the rewind, you certainly, yeah, the 14 karat versus 24 karat. Exactly right. There you go. But yeah, so appreciate you in either case. Hopefully everybody's staying safe out there. Hopefully you're going to be able to read some good books this week. And so until next time,